All right, so Shalom Yasharella, we are back. Gonna pick where we left off in Revelation. Already went through chapter 10. Now we're gonna go through chapter 11. So Revelation chapter 11, we'll read it in Ibari Ra'ash, or in the Hebrew first. Y'all can be my second pair of eyes, Baba Kushal, in case I missed something. Sometimes I get my letters mixed up.
You're a good reader.
Oh, the water. I'm actually gotten better with the modern than I had with the ancient. I need to get back into the ancient more.
Either one.
Come. So this is Revelation chapter 11 and verse 1. You have a Wayathan, right? Okay. So it reads, Wayathan liya kwana dawama waya mad hamala waya amar kwam wamad af hayako ha alahayim wa af hamazabak, the altar, wa af hamasha thak william bawa, verse 2, wa af hakha tazar ashara la panyama lahayako ha shalak kawataza wala thamadana kaya nathana lagawoyam wara maswa af ha'ayar ha'kwadasha arabayam wa shanyam kadashyam, 3, wa than la shanya ayya wanabawa yawamyam alap wama afyam ha shash ha salat wa shashayam mathakasyam bashakyam, 4, oha hum shanya lazayathyam wamatya habanarwath ha'ai madyam lapanya alahaya ha'arataza, 5, wakaya yabakwash ayash la harai laham thataza ash mapayaham wa kala af ayab yaham wakan ko hama bakwash la harai laham mawath yawamath, 6, walaham hamala tan la'ai tazar af hashemayim, the heavens, wala'a yahya matar baya wamyam nabawa'a tham waya shalat wa ayo ha mayam lahapakam ladash wa ayo ha rataza laha katha bako nagai maria yakha patazwa, there we go, yakha patazwa, verse 7, wa kharya hashala yamam aidwatham hakhaya ha'ayla man hathahawam tha'aisha aimham Malachama Wathawako Laha Waha Ragtham. 8. Wahaya Wahayatha Nabotham Barakawab Ha'ayar Hagadawala. There we go. Hanakwa Ra'ath Kapya Haroka Basham Sadawam Wamatazarium Ashara Sham Natazalab Gum Adanyanawa. 9. Wa Rabium Man Ha'anyam Wahama Shapakwa Wahala Shanwath Waha Goyam Yara Awa Af Nabotham Yawumyam Shalasha Wakha Tazaya Wakha Tazaya Wala'a Yathanwa Af Gawaya Thum La Shawam Bakwarabyam. 10. Ha'arataza wa shamatwa Ilyaham wa I lazwa waya shalakwa manawath za laza kaya shanya. Shanya. 11. Ha nabayayam ha'oha haka ayabwa af yeshabya ha'arataza. 11. Wa Yahya Akharya Yawamyam Shalasha Wakataza'a Wakatazaya Wathaba'a Baham Rocha Chayayam Ma'af Ha'alahayam Waya'ai Madwa Ail Ragolyaham Wa'ayama Garawala Na Pala Ail Ko Ra'ayaham. 12. Where Shemaiwa Kwowo Yagawo Man Hashemayim Madabar Oyaham La'amar Alwa Hana Where Alwa Ba'ainan Hashemayim Hashemayama Washa na Yaham Ra'ayam Atham. 13. Wabasha'ai. Like we do, like it's a call. Wabasha'ai. You have the I and the ha connected. Sounds like ay. Wabasha'ai. Hahaya Haya Ra'ish. Got a woe. Wala pao. So like wa thapo Aishiyarya Ha'ayar Washaba'ith Alapium Shamwath Banyam Adam son man Naharagwa Baraish Waha Pa Sha'aryam Ra'aida Khaztham Waya Thanwa Kabawad La Alahaya Ha Shemayim. 14. Ha Tazara Ha Shanayath Kalapa Halaka La Wahana Ha Tazara Ha Sho Yash Yath Mahara Sabawa'a. 15. Wahamala Ak, and the angel. Ha Shabayaya Fakwai Ba Shawapar Wa Yahya Quowath. Got a William Ba Shemayim Waya Amawa Hana Mamalak Watham Wa I Walam Hayata La Arawan Yanawa Wala Mashayak Wala Mashayakwa Wa Hawa'a Wa Yamalak La I Walam Yum. 16. Wa Aishayim Wa Arabaiha Ha Zaquanium, the elders of the ancients. Yeshabyam Lapanya Ha Elahayim Io Kasawatham Wanoa Io Panyaham Waya Shath Chowa La Alahayim. 17. Waya Marwa Ma Wadyam Nak Nawa Laka Yahweh. If I got that one wrong, it'd be like, oh man, can you not get the Most High's name? Kidding me? Yahweh Alahayim Tazabawath Hahawa'a Wahaya Wayaba'awa Kaya Iska Lagarawo Wa Thamalak. 18. Waha Gawoyim nations. Wa Kwatazapwa Wayaba'a Kwatazapka Wa Aif Ha Mathyam Laha Shapat. Laha Shapat. I think that's the judgment and the judgment, or to the judgment. Well, Thuf Shakab La'Ibadyaka Hanabayayim, prophets. Wala Quadashim Wala Uriah Shamka Lama Quatanum Wama Quatanum Wa'aid Yagadawo Salak Yada Gada Walam Wala Ha Shak Thum Salak Wa Shak Yaf Af Mashakha Yafya Ha'arataza. 19. Waya Pathak. Oh, open. Waya Salak Ha Yako Ha Alahayim Ba Shemayim Wa Yara'a Arawan Bara Yathwa Baha Yakolwa Wa Yahya Barakim Wa Kolwath Wara Anyam Wa Ra'aish Wa Barad Kabad. Okay. So that was Revelations chapter 11 in the Hebrew. Now we're going to get the understanding of Revelations. So let's see here. Reading of Hebrew chapter 10, Revelations chapter 11. 43, 12, 30, 9 shillings. Okay, so this is Revelation chapter 11, in verse 1. Does everybody have it?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So Revelation chapter 11, in verse 1. It says, "And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein." So another vision being shown to John, the angels depicting to him to go and measure this temple, right? See its dimensions. Because anytime the Most High gave us instruction on building anything for him, it was always very specific, right? As far as length, width, height, materials used, etc., and so forth, right? And this is a significant why he's having them do this, because this even has symbolic meaning. Because what we're talking about here is what? The Most High measuring out the children of Israel, right? Amongst the people, making sure that they're fit for the temple, right? Since we are the temple, really. Right? The building is a secondary. But what's the building? What's the place without the people, right? It says in verse 2, "But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not. For it is given unto the Gentiles," right? Because the outer court, which we're reading through right now in Exodus and the other Sabbath services, it goes into what? How we built all the things that would be a part of the tabernacle of the congregation, right? From the Ark of the Testimony to the altar of incense, to the candlestick, to the holy place, etc., and so forth. Even the outer court, which had a perimeter around it too. So it's making emphasis on the inner part of the temple, that should be measured, but then it's saying that what? To not measure the court that's without, because it's given to the Gentiles, because this Gentiles here is talking about actual Gentiles. You know, in the scriptures, Gentile can refer to a heathen, anyone who's not of the 12 tribes. It could also refer to our people that are in a Gentile frame of mind, right? But this is going into the actual Gentiles that aren't part of the Most High's people. Reading on in verse 2, it says, "In the holy city," once again referring to us, because we are the city, we are Jerusalem, right? Because we are Jerusalem, the city, and oftentimes poetically, Jerusalem, when it's referred to in the Old and New Testament, it's just talking about us, right? We're called Jerusalem, we're called Zion, right? We're called many things that are known or signify us. It says, "The holy city shall be tread underfoot 42 months." So now this 42 months, we see this come up as we go throughout Revelation and other writings in the Old Testament. The 42 months is going into when we see 3 days and a half, right? Sometimes we'll see it as, we'll see it 3 days and a half. We'll also see it here as 42 months. And you see in verse 3, "And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses." This is also another reference referring to the children of Israel. "And they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth." Right? So this is going into a certain time period, right? The 42 months and the 1,260 days, because when you do the math on that, right, it's referring to the same time frame. Let's make sure we can show it. So what you'll see, just write down these 3 as a group. You could link this, I guess, with verse 2 and 3. I haven't said it yet. I'm gonna say it now. 1 second. So in your notes, you can just write 3.5 days, which is pretty much 3.5, right? Or I should say 3.5 years. That equals 42 months. Mm-hmm. Which equals, so another equal sign, 1,203 score. which for score is 20 years, 3 score is 60.
Days. So what's it?
Right.
What?
1,260 days. Absolutely right, Brother Gabar.
1,260 days.
Right. So you see this this time frame being referred to. We'll see the 3.5 years coming up as we go down this chapter. You'll even see that same time frame in the Old Testament too. One example of that, you can just write down as a link. Daniel, book of Daniel. I see your hand. Mm-hmm.
What is make up of what? Daniel. And the two witnesses, what would that be?
The two witnesses are talking about the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah.
Split.
Right. Because after after Solomon's transgression, the kingdom was split, right?
You said 3.5, 32 months, 2,060 days. You gotta make up with 11 what?
You can write 2 and 3, because verse 2 talks about it, and verse 3 has another way of saying it, right?
You gotta put Daniel in?
Yeah.
What's Daniel?
So Daniel, chapter 7, verses 24 and 25. For time's sake, we'll just go into these here. After that, I'm going to give you a time frame to write down as well. And y'all, if you could read that, Baba Kushab, once everybody has it. Daniel 7, 24 and 25.
Observation 11 and 2.
And 3 as well. So Daniel 7, 24 and 25, a prophecy of Daniel referring to the same time frame that we're reading now in Revelation chapter 11 as far as this vision.
Daniel 7:24. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
Right, so little quick prophecy here, right? So in 24, Daniel's giving the, right here, he's writing the explanation, or the angel's giving the explanation of the vision that he showed of this beast. Right? This beast referring to the empire that we're in right now, right? And how it came to be. America born out of Europe. So when it says here, the 10 horns out of this are 10 kings that shall rise, that's the same as we read in Revelation last time, right? 7 heads and 10 horns. The 10 horns referring to, you just write down first hiccup, so I'll I'll take it for what it's worth. Thanks, Google. So yeah, England, Spain, and France. So make sure you guys just put that down in your notes, okay? So now, going to verse 25 now. Thank you.
Daniel 7:25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
So stop right there. So this America is going to speak great words against the Most High, right? What do we see here, right? First it was one nation under God, now evolution, right? All types of inventions, discoveries, right? Figured out, you know, what God really is, and you know, all this discussion around, you know, does God even exist, and how do we know for sure, right? And you see it's a tug of war between Esau, who believes in the false Christ, and Esau, you know, who they have a new Christ, Charles Darwin, right? He's their new savior, you know, of their, you know, mental intellectual revolution, right? To say, yes, there's no God. It's only what we can prove, right? So they shall speak great words against the Most High, and in doing that, denying God, the principles that they uphold clearly go against the Most High. Yet they want to say or have the people pledge one nation under God. The question we have to ask is, which God? Right? It's clearly not the God of the. It's not the God of the Bible. That's who Daniel's talking about here. So speak great words against the Most High. Just look at the history. Look what America's based on. They say they believe in God, but then they do otherwise. Right? Exactly. For their own, and of course, what they do to the Most High's prophets, our people, how to keep a boot heel on us, right at the bottom. It says, "And shall wear out the saints of the Most High," right? So whether we're, you know, following their laws or not, you know, we're tired. We're working somewhere, right? Busting our behind, right? Double shift, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, right? You know, trying to make ends meet, trying to cover our bases, put money into a bag with holes because we don't know. So we keep falling to the same traps, and very few times to even hand down what we have earned to our kids. So this is wear out the saints of the Most High. That's what that's dealing with, because like you read earlier in Exodus, right? This is a modern day Egypt where we're in captive to the Egyptians now, which spiritual Sodom in Egypt today is America. It's also known as Babylon in the scriptures. So that's what's going into when it says they shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Remember that curse, Deuteronomy 28, right before 68, where it says, "In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even." And when the evening comes, you're going to be saying, would God it were morning, right? In other words, like, you guys have been on a plantation, you know how it is. It's like, you know, you might have been at the office an hour and a half, and you're like, man, is the day over yet? Like, I've been here so long. Look at your watch, like, damn, it's only 10 o'clock. Like, it feels like 2 o'clock, right? So that's a curse, right? That to be in that kind of condition where it's just like, it's like toil to just do your job. Kind of, I'm just making a reference to a Deuteronomy, I think it's 28 and 67, the verse right before verse 68, which we all know Deuteronomy 28, 68, right? Yeah, 67 says that, so I think we can relate to that. You know, many of us can relate to that, right?
Deuteronomy 28 and what?
67.
Oh yeah, Navion, you was right on point. They do a lot of follies now. I just saw the news, and they had this little boy saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm like, oh God, here we go with this folly crap. Somebody said the flag and all that, and they said, well, you don't know if he's being taped. I said, that's a bunch of crap. And that was the scripture that one of your classes, you said how they come out with a lot of follies and all that. Now, I mean, godless news, to hide the real truth is going on.
Come. And you have to really question, like, what the agenda really is, because people want to say, oh, it's just incompetence on all-time high. Now, is it, you know, purely incompetence, or is this a contrived effort to get people to not trust in, you know, the current establishment, to usher in something else, right? You know, it's behooves us to really know what the intention actually is here with all this fake news and People just having general lack of trust in government. This just didn't happen by accident. And of course, ultimately, the Most High's plan oversees whatever plans they may have. But the thing is, to deal with your enemy, you have to know their moves, what they're trying to do, what their goals are. Otherwise, you're going to be arguing mute points. You might as well lay a hand on your mouth. So yeah, scriptures give us insight into who the nations are, which give us the leg up, right? We had that insight. But anyway, as he read, they shall wear out the saints of the Most High, right? So even though, we're not dealing with the hardcore bondage slavery like we were before, it's just changed form, right? They've, you see even brothers and sisters have put together documentaries. Slavery has been upheld, just going by different names, using different means to still have us work hard bondage of slavery through the prison industrial complex, among other things, right? And the quote unquote war on drugs, right? But yeah, a lot of extensive documentaries going into, things that just can't, it had to be more than just convenience, or coincidence, I should say. Convenience for them, and can it really be a coincidence that, right around this time that they would pass these kinds of laws to lock up so many of us, right? And we're none the wiser. So it says they shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And here's the key. Check out the last part of this verse. This is where it's going to connect with the 3.5 years. So you can read that last part of 25.
And think to change times and laws.
So just real quick, think to change times and laws, right? The calendar's all crazy outside of the Most High's calendar. Change laws, that's pretty straightforward, right? They're going against the Most High's commandment and establishing their own profanity, right?
And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
Right. So the saints of the Most High are going to be given into this ruler's hand, right? This king, this America. It says until a time and times and dividing of time. So what's the time? 1. Times is 2. And then dividing of times is a half.
No, when do you get that, semblance from?
Actually, we're going to read Revelations 11, where it says after 3 days and a half, because it's that 3.5 time frame. It's actually half of 7, but at 3.5, it comes up in different places, referring to. I'm kind of going to spoil it, but as we read, we're going to find out it's going into the time frame we'll be here in captivity, which after we finish this verse.
Yes, you explain how time being one.
Right. So time here is 1, times represents 2, and dividing a time is half of 1. So you add those together, times, which is 3, and then dividing a time, that's your 3.5.
I understand that part, but I was trying to figure out how does time mean one. That's what I'm trying to.
It's just understanding. It's just the way the prophecy is set up.
Okay.
And we know this for sure because we can look now, it's history. We can look back on it and see that it happened exactly this way, right? This time frame we will be here in the Americas not really knowing who we are, which leads me to the last thing for this verse that we want to write down. So make sure everybody has that in your notes, that the time times dividing a time is the 1 plus 2 plus 0.5. When it says time, that means 1. When it says times, that's 2, like time plural. And then dividing a time is half of 1, so that's 0.5. Mm-hmm. So time 1 times 2.
Times 1 times 2 and times.
Dividing a time is 0.5.
Times 3, divided by 0.5, right?
No, dividing a time is 0.5.
Dividing
And then you add them all up, and you get 3.5.
Right.
Let's have 3.5 coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
One,
Times 1 times 2 and times dividing by 5.
1 plus 2 plus 0.5 equals 3.5.
Okay. 2 plus 2
Plus 0.5
0.5
equals 3.5.
equals 3.5. Okay.
So I'm going to read verse 2 and 3 again, right? Back in Revelation chapter 11. So Revelation chapter 11, verse 2, it says, "But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, what is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall be tread underfoot 42 months." The same time frame that Daniel was talking about, John's talking about the same time frame. Here he's just using months to describe it, right? 42 months. Then it says in verse 3, "And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses," which we're going to get a verse to show that too, as far as who the 2 witnesses are. "And they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth," right? So you do 42 months, and you divide it by what? How many months are in a year?
Well,
What do you get? Exactly. Right.
3.5 years. When you divide 12 into 42 months.
divide that means 3.5.
Yeah.
You know, so heavy too, for verse 3, 1,203 score days, or 1,260. To let you know that we definitely deal with the lunar calendar as far as how we tell the time of month that we're in. You divide that, you don't divide that by 365. You have to divide 1,260 by how many days are in what?
Month.
A lunar month, as opposed to a solar month.
What's a new month?
Because the solar month has what? 365 days in a year, right?
Solar month, 55.
Only has what? 354 days a year. And to keep the seasons aligned, what you have is every maybe third year or so, you have an extra new moon, right? It's because the high holy days always have to make sure, they at least to make sure the high holy days, that they fall within their proper season, as far as season and the harvest that's coming in. So you divide the 1260 by the 354, you get the 3.5 again.
You get that 3.5 again?
And when I divide the 1260 by 30, I get 42 months exact.
You said by 30?
Right.
Well, that's what you're trying to figure out months. I'm saying you're trying to figure out years.
Oh, okay.
So because on average it'll be what, about 30? Because you probably, for it to do the month, I think a moon is on average 29 and a half days, give or take. But it's always 354. So to do it in a year, from days to a year, we just divide by 354.
And 354 is to what?
That's how many days there are in a lunar year.
Mm-hmm. And lunar means what?
Pertaining to the moon.
And 365 days is what type of
That's how many days are in a solar year. Every 4 years is 366, right? Because they had to add a leap in leap year, that they add a leap day, right? So February 29th every 4 years, right?
4 years ago, so a new year.
Right, according to the calendar that we use based on the sun.
It's 366 days a year.
Every 4 years, right? And the other years is 365. We're actually still in verse 3.
So, good question. Does anyone know why the Most High tell the angel tells John to measure the temple, the altar, and the people, and leave out the outer court.
I thought we went into it already. You want to bring something else out about that?
No, I just wanted to bring something out.
Okay.
Bring it out.
All right, so the Most High said to measure the temple, measure the altar, and leave out the outer court, right? And when John had that vision, there wasn't a temple standing in Jerusalem. How did he see a temple? It's because established in the future, and the temple represent where we worship, right? So you got to measure the temple. You got to measure the people, meaning the people belong to the Most High, and what he left outside is the nation. And you can see that when we read Zechariah, the 2nd chapter. Yeah, you can read it on your own time. Right. Okay.
Come. So the link with verse 3 and also with verse 4. So I'll read verse 3 again. It says, "And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth." So now, last thing you want to write down first before we jump to verse 4, that this 3.5 years, or sometimes you'll see it as days or times, is referring to a 350-year time period. Kind of like when we read in Revelation chapter 9, where it says 5 months, but it's talking about 5 years, the 5 years of World War I. This is going into 350-year time frame that we will be here in captivity. And the year you can start from is 1620 to 1970. Sometimes you might see it as 1619 to 1969. It's the same. The Hebrew year begins in April.
What's the meaning to that?
So this is the 350 years.
Years?
Right. This is what the 3.5 to 42 months, the 1,203 score is dealing with this time frame. That's now our history, but it was future to John. But it's going into the year 1620 to about 1970, which around 1620 was when the bulk of the slaves were brought to North America. You had it going on before that, but as far as when it really began to ramp up here in North America, it was around 1620. You had the slaves brought over to Jamestown in Virginia. So that was 1620. And then 1970, 1969, that was a time when you began to see the truth. And it's, forming where we've seen it now as far as us knowing who we are, going into the 12 tribes, keeping the commandments, things like that. That began to take speed around 1970 with the likes of Yaquab, who was Aria's father, and Henry Bibbins, a brother named Henry Bibbins, who we credit to actually being the founder of, before it was called, I think initially it was called the Israeli Church of Universal Practical Knowledge in the early 70s. That was when you saw that movement begin to take speed as far as Israel acknowledging who they were. You had it in pockets here and there throughout the 1900s with the Commandment Keepers and even Prophet Crawley going back to the 1800s. But as far as really coming out, we see it now. That wouldn't begin until about 1970, up until now. So this is a prophecy that we are directly a part of. that we can look at now in retrospect, and then we can see, as we're going to read in this chapter, we're going to get to a verse that's actually talking about us right now, those of us who have been called into the truth.
Yeah, I was trying to, how did they get the slaves on the ship? When did they have, the ship? They had, in order to get the slaves on the trip, on the ship, they had to trick them to get it on there. So, from what I understand, I found they had a ship called Good Jesus on there, to get them on there. But they were pirates. And once they got them on there, then they put out the other day sky.
I think it might be different depending on what country you're talking about, as far as how the story went.
The slaves, when they took them from mainland.
Because what you had, and we can go into specifics as far as when they were taken from, say, Sierra Leone, or taken from Benin, or taken from here. But as far as generally, what you had was native Hamites who were there. They knew we were distinct, even to this day. Don't mistake a Hamite for a West African. They'll get mad. I'm not West African, right? What they really mean to say is, I'm not one of you guys. But they were confederate with the Arabs that were in North and West Africa, with Esau that was, in Europe mainly. Sell us as a people into slavery. And that's in Joel chapter 3, we goes into that as far as.
When they took us from?
What's the coast of Africa?
On the coast of Africa?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You might be talking about a specific scenario, but all in all, it's fulfilling that prophecy in Joel 3. As far as those nations working with each other to sell us into slavery and to make a profit off of our downfall.
So they took us for a profit.
Mm-hmm. And you'll hear that same story about, Africans sold Africans into slavery. They say the same thing about Native Americans. Because what you do have documented is we would, on the western coast of Africa, we may have did that just like with the Native Americans. Those in our society we considered criminals. We would say, okay, yeah, they're a derelict to our society in west coast of Africa or in North America, wherever the Native Americans were at that time, so-called. They would sell them. But then the whole thing was that was like their way in the door. Like you were talking about, where Esau tried to build that trust. And once he has that trust, turn the tides and everybody goes. Right. But all in all, it had to happen. Because, we weren't doing the right thing even on the western coast.
Well, because anyway, they were rebellious anyway, trying to get them on this ship. But they had to use some kind of tactic to get them on here.
Right, but ultimately that wouldn't have happened if we were obeying the Most High. You know what I mean? Right. So that's the wisdom. That's the basis of why it happened. We can go into specifics. We can go into specifics as far as techniques, but really, what's the main point is because we were rebellious, the Most High had this prophecy take place.
Set for it.
Right.
Okay.
But to link with verse 4 and also verse 3, where it says 2 witnesses and 2 olive trees, you can link up Zechariah chapter 4. Zechariah chapter 4.
Zechariah chapter 4.
Mm-hmm.
Verse what?
12 down to 14. And y'all if you could read that, Baba Kushan. Zechariah chapter 4, verses 12 to 14. We would appreciate it. Chapter 4, verses 12 to 14.
Zechariah chapter 4, verse 12. And I answered again and said unto him, what be these two olive branches, which through the two golden pipes empty the golden oil out of themselves?
Right. So he's asking the question and seeing this vision of the olive trees along with the candlestick, right? Saying, okay, what do these things represent that you're showing me, right? What be these two olive branches and through the two golden pipes empty the golden oil out of themselves, right? What do these represent? Read 13.
And he answered me and said, knowest thou not what these be? And I said, no, my Lord. Verse 14. Then said he, these are the two anointed ones that stand by the Lord of the whole earth.
Come on. So it says, know thou not what these be? And he said, no, I don't know, right? I'm not sure of this vision. And he said, these are the two anointed ones that stand by the Lord of the whole earth, right? So now, who are the anointed ones? Who was anointed by the Most High? Come, that's the nation of Israel, right? And became two kingdoms, right? The kingdom of Judah in the south and the kingdom of Israel in the north. But you can just write down Psalms chapter 105. Psalms 105. Verses 14 and verse 15. This is where we see the Most High's love for Israel through and through. Even when we do wrong, the Most High said, you other nations, you better not lay a hand on my people. Even though he would use them to punish us for doing wrong, he told them at the same token, it would be a judgment unto you. And this is an example of a verse that tells us that. 105, 14 and 15. If we read that too, y'all can Baba Kushan. That would be great.
What's that, 105 verse 14?
14 and 15.
Psalms 105 verse 14. He suffered no man to do them wrong. Yea, he reproved kings for their sakes. Verse 15, saying, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm.
See that? So the Most High, he suffered no man to do them, us, wrong. Verse 6, if you're confused about who the subject is in this song, you can just go up to verse 6 where it says, you see of Abraham, his servant, ye children of Jacob, his chosen. But you know that it's talking about us. Even down in verse 10, and confirm the same unto Jacob for a law and to Israel for an everlasting covenant. Right? Now he's referring to them, saying what? He suffered no man to do them wrong. He reproved kings for their sake, saying, touch not mine anointed and cause my prophets no harm. Which you know the prophets always come out of what nation? Exactly. They always come out of the children of Israel. Which makes me laugh because I see all these false prophets out here through false religions and sects of religion, right? Where they oftentimes will take a name of one of our prophets and then they have their own last name, right? Whether it be a heathen or even our people who are confused. Or even with Islam, right? They say, well, Muhammad, he was the final prophet. And it's funny in the Quran, you guys big up our forefathers. You big up Isa, what we call Yahweh Shai. You big up Abraham, right? Etc. and so forth. And you look at their record and those that came after them, you see that they're all, what? Of the line that coming out of Noah. And then as you drill down, they came out of the children of Israel. So how is it all of a sudden the last prophet comes out of Ishmael when the covenant was made with Isaac? So, you know, it's just simple things like that, you know, they just miss. And it's not really because they're studying, it's just because, you know, they're caught up in the glitz and glam and they see, you know, nice polished mosque with, you know, golden rooftops and, you know, so many members and just they feel comfort in that, right? And the actual studying of what it is that they believe, that comes secondary. So Zechariah chapter 4, 12 to 14 to link with Psalms 105, 14 and 15. Letting us know who these anointed ones are. And how, same as John saw the candlestick along with the olive branches or the olive tree, it's just another metaphor referring to Israel.
I'm glad you said that, Nabian. I saw a class in Dallas, and Esau had the Bible, and one school in Dallas, the captain, he was saying the Lord was giving it to you, and then they had a big fight. I forgot the school in Dallas. It's like one under Christ or something, and the Edomite come and say, "Well, you guys say if you believe in Christ, you go to heaven." He said, "Man, you going straight to hell. You going to cop 16 hours." I was like clucking up, man. And he's always telling our people, if you believe in him, you go to heaven. And they said everybody's walking into heaven and some crap, and school just beaten down with the scriptures. You know.
Come. That's heavy propaganda to make everybody think that, oh, you know, we're all the same, you know, we're one blood, which is true in the scriptures, right? Because the scriptures tell us of one blood he made all nations. But right there, all nations. Just because you may come from one blood doesn't mean that we're all the same people. It's hard for folks to get past that. Yeah, like your favorite Junior Reed song, right? It's hard for folks to get past that. Because, you know, in this society, Babylon, it's one big party, right? Oh, you come from different backgrounds, religions, but, you know, and nationalities, but we all believe the same. You know?
It's a melting pot.
Exactly. So, yeah, we're up against the American idea before we're really up against America itself. And the idea behind America is very invasive, you know, and it's in our minds, a lot of the things. And you just have to be mindful we read the scriptures and apply them and begin to, that we cast down all those imaginations, because, you know, certain things may still reside in your head as far as ways of thinking. But through the scriptures, we can do it by way of the Holy Spirit. So back in Revelation chapter 11, I'm going to read 4 now. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 4. It's going to get interesting as you go down. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 4. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the power of the earth. Right? So we already made that connection with Zechariah, right? As far as him seeing a vision. And the Most High telling him through the angel, the olive branch, the candlestick with the bowls, it just represents Israel. It's the anointed ones, who we know who's anointed.
So in this case, it's 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you hear the brother say it earlier? Because he answered. Kabar, he brought it out. He said, it's talking about the 2 kingdoms. The kingdom of Israel, which was in the north, and the kingdom of Judah, which was in the south. You folks didn't hear it the first time, or maybe they didn't grasp it. Because you go into 1 Kings chapter 12, goes into the history. 1 Kings 11 goes into why it happened with Solomon, and then 1 Kings 12 goes into the actual splitting between the one kingdom and the other. If you want a verse to go into that, if you like, you could write down Zechariah 11 and 14 if you want.
11:14.
Mm-hmm. Zechariah 11 and 14.
Link up with Revelation 11:4.
Yeah. Another one we could write down too is Isaiah chapter 13. Oh, sorry about that. I was going to say 13, 11. It's 11 and 13. Isaiah 11 and 13.
11.
Mm-hmm. Isaiah 11 verses, I guess you can start from 11, and read down to 13, which goes into him gathering us up. But verse 13 is the one where it talks about the split and how it's going to be brought back together. There's other examples too, but you can just write down those two in particular if you want.
11 and what?
Isaiah chapter 11, verses 11 to 13.
Isaiah chapter 11, verses
11 to 13.
13.
Yes, they say 11 twice. It's like, wait a minute, is that for the verse or for the chapter?
11 to 13.
Mm-hmm. Come.
I mean, I don't see the two being that, but I know Israel is the olive tree, but in the two specifically, in that verse, I don't see how the two is Israel, like the northern kingdom and southern kingdom.
Oh, no? Okay, what do you say?
I see.
If I could speak up so we can hear, we may have the same questions or.
Fine, because I'm looking at Zechariah chapter 4, and when I read on down, it's more so Zerubbabel was the witness to bring in the prophecy, and Zechariah stuff. Because I know the Most High, when there's gonna be a destruction, you always send his eyewitness. You always send two prophets to prophesy of the event that's gonna happen. So consider as the prophet who bring the word to the people, whether it's to tell them to repent and to come back to the Most High, but he always sent his eyewitnesses. So I would see the two witnesses as the people, the two is the two witnesses that the Most High will send by the Spirit of the Most High, not by them, but by the Spirit of the Most High. So when I read chapter 4 on down, that's what I see.
Right. It's more so the image, what I'm getting at, why I'm connecting Zechariah 4 with Revelation chapter 11. Like I hear what you're saying as far as the Most High using Zerubbabel and Jeshua. House David, the other one was the house of Aaron, to establish the church back then. They were like the two figures they were using, because all the not all the tribes, but they were rebuilding the temple, right? They were actually building the temple. So I see it as kind of like just an image they're using to say, when it comes to us as the temple, they use the two witnesses and they use the parallels as far as the olive branch and the tree. But as far as specifically saying, yes, Zerubbabel and Jeshua, I don't see that for Revelation 11. But as far as the image of the olive branch and of the candlestick, I see that connection there that they're making. But I agree with you as far as what Zechariah 4 is going into specifically. I'm just making a connection as far as the choice of image, because things written before time written for our learning. So it's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing it before when Zechariah had a vision about this kind of animal or this kind of thing, and you know, because we know things Revelation, they'll point to things that were written before, but they'll use the same image but differently sometimes. You know what I mean? So that's at least that's the way that I connected it. But yeah, definitely not to take away from the role that Zerubbabel would play at that time. We were actually rebuilding the temple, because even certain things in Zechariah, it kind of goes back and forth where it's talking about things they were doing then to rebuild the temple. Because remember, the Babylonians had just destroyed it, and they were part of a group of exiles, the first group of exiles after the Babylonian Persian captivity, that were allowed to go back and rebuild. So it's taking that history and taking on a more spiritual note as far as the temple being established, the people being reestablished in the spirit in the last times. Because if you go down to Revelation 11, it's going to make other references too, but it's not going to be a physical thing. It's going to be more of a spiritual thing. Usually things that physically happen and what they were represented, but to kind of show forth spiritually. As you read on Revelation 11, we'll see some other examples. So I'll read verse 4 again. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 4. It says, "These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the power of the earth." Reading on in verse 5, it says, "And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will." Right? So going into the things that these two are going to have, right? Because when we look in what was written before time, you had what? Elijah, right? Moses, right? Other prophets of old that had certain spiritual power, right? Connection with the Most High, were able to do these things to where now we, as that body, taking on that same spirit, will have access to that same power. Just like even with Yahushua, right? The disciples are saying, you know, shall we call down fire in heaven on these? And he said, hold on now. It's not time for that yet. You know, look, I came so that people might be saved, not destroyed. You know, try to edify them first, give them time to receive it. So this same power that our prophets of old had, it's going to be shared amongst the tribes that come and follow that example of Christ. Those will be part of that 1/3. Because when we go back into history, you know, of the old prophets of old, especially Elijah and Moses, you see that they have power to do these things, right? Call fire from heaven to shut the heaven that not rain. You read about that in Kings, right? Turn waters to blood, smite the earth with plagues. You read about that during the Exodus, right? These are all things that we have power to do in the spirit. And we follow the same spirit that our forefathers did. So it's just making those connections, right, of things that we knew about that we did before, and saying that yes, we as a nation are going to take this on. We're going to take this power on, right? Those of us that have eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to understand, that receive this. And of course, the judgment that has to come upon somebody for wronging someone in a certain way, right? We know amongst us, when it comes to the Most High and Christ, we're under grace. But we know that even grace periods run out, to where for those that that wrong themselves against the Most High, they have a certain time frame to get right. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they're going to have to receive that same judgment. That's meet, but that's right. As the nations will when Christ comes back, and even 2/3 of our people will. Mm-hmm. We just hope we're not part of that 2/3.
Can you help me out? What do vex mean again? Is that mean to look down on, or what?
To vex.
The VEX.
Let's look it up.
Because I know it says, Ethan not to envy Judah, but Judah don't vex on Ephraim.
Oh, can you read Isaiah, the scripture I
Yes,
quoted in
and I went
Isaiah?
and read it when you gave me. I went to read it real quick, and I said, vex. I said, is that like to look down on them, or like or bully them, or well, I know envy means like jealousy and all that, but
Mm-hmm.
vex, I'm kind of confused with that post there meant.
Right, I looked up here the word. It says to irritate, to annoy, to provoke.
Mm.
It
Oh,
also,
like the cheese and all that, right?
right. It also says to torment, to trouble, to distress, to worry.
Then you know what? That is on the Bible is 100% okay. When I was a little kid, I used to be fighting Puerto Ricans almost every day when I was 8, 7, 9, and 10 years old. I'm serious, man, because they lived around the corner. We used to war all the time, man. I don't know why, but we used to fight all the time when I was a kid. I don't know the reason why we was fighting, but we was going at it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's an interesting relationship when you examine Judah and Ephraim, especially growing up here in North America and even in the Caribbean, because you even see somewhat as well as far as the northern and southern kingdom dynamic in general, but then even especially when it comes to North America, because you tend to see when it comes to Judah and Ephraim, like you remember we read First Chronicles 5, where it talks about how first was supposed to be upon Reuben, since he was the eldest, but then he transgressed. And then it says how it fell upon the head of Joseph to be the one to have the birthright. And then it says Judah prevailed over his brethren, and of him came the first ruler. It says, but the birthright was Joseph's. So it's kind of one of those things that goes back in history, and even in our ignorance, I guess it kind of plays itself out now, where we're both leaders in our own right, as far as Judah and Ephraim. Judah having the line of kings come out of them, being the top tribe, but then Ephraim having the birthright. So you'll always see Judah and Ephraim, or so Judah do certain things, or I guess blaze certain trails in America as far as first this and first that, and all next in line, right? Or neck and neck with Judah for the first this and first that, here in the States. But the beauty will be when we can actually see that, it's not about being the best in America. It's about being the best before the Most High. That's what it's really about.
My teenage years, not so much. And then it's so funny, when I was a teenager, I was fighting Benjamin. We went to Jamaica. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? It was crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
Then after 20, they like died down because like the 60s, when I was in elementary, the Puerto Ricans. Then in high school, I was fighting people from the island, like Jamaica and Trinidad. And all. It was crazy, man. And I don't even know why.
Come, now.
Yeah.
Come, we can definitely.
They used to call us, what they used to call us? What's their name? We used to call them coconut. They used to call us Yankees or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Hey.
It was crazy.
Come, but we could talk about some of those things and even correlate them to the
but
past.
you know what? That's all prophesied in the Bible. It says that brothers be fighting brothers.
Right, exactly.
And then on the way up, I was fighting up Esau too, so it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went to school down south for like 5, 6 years, so I was fighting them down there. So.
Right. So hopefully that helps the definitions.
Yeah, couldn't it did.
Okay, excellent. So it says, and if any man will hurt them, fire proceeded out of their mouth and devoured their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. So just write down references to Moses and Elijah for this, right? And the history associated. You just check that out in your own time. But that's just what it's making allusions to. But then reading on in verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. So let's go into that same time dividing a time now, when Europe, you have that Renaissance, right? The white Jesus being put out there, Now they're coming into power. Now we have slavery ramping up, right? Front, but then the other nations helping, right? The other Edomite nations. That's the reason it's talking about this here. Because remember before, the bottomless pit, when Samak was going to the breakdown of Revelations 9, we went into that, talking about Europe as it pertained to World War I, right? So it's that same bottomless pit, still talking about Esau, right? And their government coming against us now. So it says, it shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And that's just, history that we've seen since we've been brought over here, right? From 1620 even up until now. Like we're beginning to stand up over these last couple of decades, but it's been a rough time, right? That we've been here. So that's what this is talking about in verse 7. And in verse 8, we should definitely be familiar with where, like I said, it's more so talking spiritual as opposed to physical. It's using a lot of things we read before are written of old by the prophets and showing how we as a nation will take these on, right? Because certain things were specific to tribe, like, the priesthood was with Aaron, the kingship was with David, but then we're referred to as a kingdom of kings, right? Or a nation of priests, right? Taking on that same righteousness, right? Through Christ now. So as we read the Revelation, when we know our history, it should bring those things to remembrance. We can say, oh, okay, I see what this is actually talking about. And then we can see how they get twisted up by stuff like this. And it's like, oh, who's this talking about? This is talking about everybody. They can't see the reason why it's even making those references. But check out verse 8. It says, in their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually, right? So now it's even saying it specifically. Spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So we know it can't be talking physical, right? Because it says their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. Now these dead bodies, this reference here is not literally talking about them putting us to death, even though that did happen, even though there is prophecy dealing with that too. But this is talking about the spiritual dead. You guys remember Ezekiel talking about the valley of dry bones? He said, oh, these bones are so dry. And what mean these bones that I'm looking at, Lord? And the Lord gave him understanding. He showed him that, yeah, this represents the children of Israel, right? Remember, even David wrote in the 23rd Psalm, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, right? He was talking about living and breathing men. But what? Clearly, we're not following the laws, statutes, and commandments, which would truly make them alive, right? So we see this all the time, right? We were once these dead bodies in the street. We were following false gods, right? False ideologies, right? Because look at what it calls this place. It calls it spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. And we look at what Sodom was about, right? How they did evil continually. We look at what Egypt was about, how they did evil, right? We can look at America and go, wow, they've embraced the same wickedness that these old Hamite empires embraced, as far as the homosexuality, as far as false gods, mystery religions, right? Because a lot of the country was founded by a mystery religion called Freemasonry. And a lot of their worship and symbols are just adoptions from old Hamite mystery religions, like the Babylonians and Egyptians, right? So the scriptures know the spirit, when they look at an empire, we may give it a different name, but the Most High, he can see an empire for what it is and see where those customs come from. But folks who aren't learned, they won't add two and two together. They'll look at America and say, oh, this is just something that's brand new, right? Well, this is the first time this was ever done. But now you look at things that America practices. A lot of these things, they borrow from things that were done before. You look at the history of Sodom and Egypt and what their principles were. Then it says where our Lord was crucified. We know it's talking about spiritual here because we know Christ wasn't crucified here physically. That happened, what, 2,000 years ago. But this crucifixion, which we'll get into more detail in Revelation 13, going into that image of the beast, right? Causing those who will not bow down to it to be killed, referring to the picture of Caesar Borgia or the white Christ, right? And everything that goes with it, right? Because it's not just a picture. It's the whole belief system around that picture and what it means, right? And we have fun with it, but, it's something we can really learn from when we out there at camp and see how people respond to it, right? They want to say with their conscious mind, oh, it doesn't matter, color doesn't matter. But then they're so fearful to say or do anything around that picture, right? I've seen women with their strollers, they'll see the picture last minute and literally fling their kids out of the stroller so that the stroller wheel doesn't roll on that picture, right? So it has a heavy, it's heavily soiled in the minds of the people, even their own, that have put it up for an image of white supremacy. Or I should say so-called white, because their real name is Esau. So yeah, this is speaking spiritually in verse 8, when it says, their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. Now, remember, we always connect this verse too with Deuteronomy 28 and 68, right? You don't have to write it down as a link, where we say, he shall bring us into Egypt again with ships, right? So we see a connector here between that and what was written in Deuteronomy, referring to this Egypt, not that old Egypt with Pharaoh and all them, but this spiritual Egypt that we're in. And like I said, look at America's foundation. Look at the belief system of those that established this country, the way we see it now. And you see they adopted many of those same practices. Why is there an obelisk in Washington, D.C., the back of the dollar bill, right? So you need to, look at these things and see them for what they are. And then it'll make all the sense. Oh, okay, I see why the Lord calls this place Sodom, because I see what they did then, what they were about. Yeah, America puts forth those same things. Yeah, I see why he calls it Egypt too, because they do the same things that Egypt was doing. I see why he calls it even Babylon too, right? I see what the Babylonians did, and now America's doing the same thing. And think about it even from the prophet standpoint, where they're seeing visions of this society, right? And how it would be, right? Just by them looking at some of the statues and the emblems and the symbols and the things, they could look at that and go, oh, I know what that is, right? From their time frame, they knew things, they knew empires that did the same thing before, right? Oh, yeah, Babylon, the whole Christmas tree on the White House lawn. Oh yeah, it's Babylonian. Because that was a normal thing for the Babylonians to do, right? Or them seeing maybe the Washington Monument in a vision or whatever it may be, that would even show to them what this empire today would be about. Come, reading on in verse 9, it says, and they are the people in kindreds and tongues, and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. So the nations that be round about us, they're not going to care for the ignorance that we are in, right? They're going to say, yeah, let them be dead, right? Because as long as they don't know what they're doing, they're going to make us money, right? My greed outweighs my hatred for these Jews. So let's keep them twisted with the languages we gave them and make sure they don't come together. Like you were talking about earlier, Brother Duffy, as far as the beef you got with the other tribes, not even knowing why. Because it behooves them that we stay divided. We don't come together. And when we do come together, we don't come together under that righteous banner of truth, right? Knowing who we are. That's why we always bring it out there when we teach. We bring out the banner showing, look, here's who we are. Here's our real name. We're supposed to be working together, not against each other. Don't let the enemy divide and conquer us yet again. Let's come together on the correct platform. Otherwise, we won't have success as a people. Yeah, we can be strong as individuals on separate islands, but we're unstoppable together dealing with the truth. I'd rather be unstoppable than just strong.
Yeah, when I was coming up too, and the older guys, like in their 20s, we were teenagers, and they saying that they was moving into our neighborhoods because, those guys said, look at they moved into our neighborhoods and they taking out apartments, and so that caused a lot of friction, like in my blocks and stuff, because like I lived when I was younger, like 8, 9, and 10, and then the older ones had us fighting the little ones, They go in and fight them. You don't want to fight them. We playing like, no, they used to force us to fight each other.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Check out verse 10. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry and shall sing gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. right? So the two prophets is the same as the two witnesses, the two olive branches. Still just talking about our people, right? But check out what they're doing. They're rejoicing, making merry, sending gifts to each other. Right? It sounds very much like our favorite in Psalms 83, right? Where it talks about what the nations, how they confederated one with another, saying that what? How can we put them out of remembrance, these Israelites, right? How can we take their name out of the earth and use them to our advantage? So Most High's calling it like he sees it. He's seeing the vision, what they're going to do, right? So yeah, that's what verse 9 and 10 pretty much are going into. It's going into how they're not going to, show pity unto us, or give us a leg up. That what? It's going to be something that we do through the Holy Spirit by way of Christ. That's the only way we're going to be able to come together and figure out what we need to figure out to get out this lower state that we've been in for so long. So now, check out this prophecy in the next verse. So let me just write this down real quick. Okay. So now Revelation chapter 11 in verse 11 reads, and after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life and power entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them, right? So once again, we know it wasn't talking about us physically being killed, even though that did happen. It's talking about us being spiritually dead. It's saying after 3 days and a half, right? When you were asking your question earlier, Gabriel, I was thinking about this verse to connect the dots as far as, okay, well, how do we know it's this and how do we know it's that? So now it's history to us, to where we see, okay, how we dealt with the truth from around 1620s up until around 1970, but from 1970 until now, slowly but surely, momentum has been gaining as far as what? More Israelites waking up to the truth, right? Waking up to the sincere milk of the word, even knowing who the 12 tribes are to begin with. Then from there, waking up those different tribes, right? To fulfill the prophecy of 1/3 being saved, 144,000, that government being established, right? To where now you got so many camps out there, right? A couple decades back, it was only a few. Now you're starting to see more and more and more. Some of them learned from camps that were already in existence. Some camps are just rising up without even ever seeing a camp that we may be affiliated with. Just the spirit is coming upon different tribes to realize who they are and what they need to do. So that's what it means when it says, after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life and power entered into them, and they stood upon their feet. We are this prophecy right here and now, right? You guys have probably heard me make the joke. I say, yeah, this time from the 70s up until now, if there are books being written about us, we are like Acts 29, Acts 30, Acts 31, Acts 32. We're like the continuation of the Acts of the Apostles, right? As far as really truly teaching Christ and reestablishing the churches. Because remember what Paul wrote? He said that what? There had to be a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, which is what? The time that we're in now, where it's becoming evident who that man of sin is, that man of perdition, etc., and so forth. So not to go into that again, but we already covered that. But yeah, that's what this is talking about. It's talking about from the 70s up until now, the spirit of life entering into us and then great fear falling upon us. Like we even mentioned in camp, it's like certain things we can just say on the microphone and speak. We couldn't do that before, right? They would say, oh, take that down, do this or do that, even if it was lawful according to their standards. Now, saying what the scriptures are saying, with force, with power, right? Like Paul tells us in Corinthians, right? And great fear is fallen upon them, to where you got people coming up to us saying, man, I don't know what it is. Like, you guys are like 10 feet tall. It's so weird. Like, we're not, physically any bigger, but we know the spirit we will appear differently to them than we may appear to ourselves, right? Because remember what the Most High said he would do when we followed him. He said he will put the fear and the dread of what? Among all the nations that be round about us. But we had to follow him to have that edge, right? But now, when we don't follow the Most High will then take that blessing. And then these same nations who clearly were stronger than, wiser than, they'll what? Overcome us, overpower us, right? And that's what we experience most of our time here, right? So I guess you can make a note of that if you want, as far as the Most High putting the fear and the dread. You can just make a reference to Deuteronomy chapter 2. One verse a minute that says this, but Deuteronomy chapter 2. You can link up verses 24 and 25. Once again, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 24 and 25. Shalom. So if you could read that, Brother Gabar, Baba Kushan. 2 verses 24 and 25 to coincide with Revelations 11 and 11.
What did you say now, y'all?
Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 24 and 25.
All right, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 24 and 25. Rise ye up and take your journey and pass over the river Arnon. Behold, I have given into thy hand Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it and contend with him in battle.
Right, so this is one of the first nations we fought against, right? To prove us by war, as he said he would do in Judges, when we were brought out of the land of Egypt, so that we could take over the land of Canaan, city by city. But look what the Most High is going to do to give us the advantage, but we have to trust in him as the catch, right? You got to obey him and trust in him. Mm-hmm. Check out verse 25.
This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven. Who shall hear report of thee and shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee?
Right. So we're reading Revelations 11. It's not really a new thing. It's just business as usual. As long as Israel's taking care of their business, this just comes with the territory, right? I think we all have seen this, even on a low level, when it comes to, like, say, sports or athletics, when you're doing competitive, any type of competitive sport or athletics. If your opponent is afraid, to compete against you, that man or that woman may be a top performer. But when that fear enters in, they can't do what they would normally do, right? Until you say, man, I was not on my A game, man, because I was shook, because I was scared of this person, or I saw how good they were and I didn't think I was good enough, right? You second guess yourself, in warfare, that can be it, especially if that spreads. I know, I think the French have an expression for it, they call it the esprit de corps, right? Or the kind of the vibe of the spirit of the body, as far as, the morale of the troops, right? If the morale of the troops is down, and they go out there and fight, they're going to be swinging like this. They're not going to be, in the zone. Whereas when you're in the zone, it's like you're putting your all in. You're giving it 110, 115, 120%. So the Most High would take that from them when we would fight them, to where we didn't get to, we may have killed just a couple, and they're already running. They're already heading for the hills. We see it time and time again. During the time of, we're reading here, during the time of Joshua, during the time of different kings that were in power, right? Even in the time of the Maccabees, we saw the Most High do this for us. And he's doing it right now for us when we go out there and teach. You know, we're not even taking swords. We're just bringing out the Most High's word. And that spirit of fear is on him. Remember that time we were on Kensington and Allegheny? Remember? The guy was out his mind with the payphone. And we just bring out the word, and all of a sudden, his whole heart just changes. That's just a small example. Right? That's what the Most High can and has and will do for us.
Right.
As long as we stay the course.
What's your profession?
Say what?
What's your profession?
Oh, 300. Come. Yeah. But this is like, it won't matter what your profession is, but now we have to have, spiritually, we have to be what? How's it worded? Study to show ourselves approved unto God. A workman that needeth not to be ashamed, right? If we have that profession, yeah, we can say, yeah, we got more soldiers, real soldiers.
Yeah, we were trained at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's enough.
Come.
Tell that story real quick.
Well, the guy, he might have been on medication. It's tough to say, but he was yelling out different outbursts. And he just kept banging a payphone. I was out there for no reason.
Right.
And he was like around the corner when we were teaching. And he came around us and had some words for us. I can't remember what verses I pulled out per se, but we just, when the scripture's saying, you know, you might want to be careful because I don't know if you know what you're dealing with here. You know, you don't want to come in this zone, right? Because we're pulling the scriptures. And I think I might have pulled a scripture about, you know, a soft answer or something of, you know, something about calming a spirit or something. I don't know what verse it was exactly. But we just pulled a couple of verses and then we just had a change of heart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if it was even specifically, you know, for what he was doing per se. But I remember saying that much at least, you know, because people oftentimes they only trust what their five senses show them. They're not even aware of the unclean spirit. culture takes bits. Verse 18, Revelation chapter 11, verse 18. It says, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. So now it's time for judgment, right? It's time for judgment. Judgment day, judgment night, you know. Daniel even talks about this too. You could link this with you can get Daniel chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12. I'll give you the verses in a second.
So yeah, I want to see the subject now, y'all. But they got in the uproar. They found out Barney was the black guy behind that mask of Esau. Like they didn't know that. Oh Lord, you know, I didn't know that either. So I saw him on television. Tell the truth, you know. And I didn't know. Well, and they said Barney was a nigga. What? Then they were like writing in. We know he was black and all that crap, you know.
And you know that was James Earl Jones?
You said you're talking about Darth Vader still, right?
No, Barney, the dinosaur.
Oh,
Barney
Barney.
costume was the brother.
I feel kind of bad now.
With the purple dinosaur?
Yes.
Son, yes.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brother. He did it for like 12 years. And they put another brother back there, but Esau didn't know that.
Who was the
Like,
name?
they didn't know that. Just like Elmo, he was a black guy.
Who?
Elmo.
Oh, Elmo.
The brother's asking, what's the name of the voice actor for Barney?
Oh, I forgot his name. He was on that show. I think what's his name hosted it. Steve Harvey. It's like To Tell the Truth. You know, what is your name, please? And he stand up. My name is so and so. My name is so and so. Then that's when it was like a couple of days ago. I just browsed through the TV and I saw it. You know, it was like them old shows. They bring it back To Tell the Truth.
Kind of something to Google. I feel kind of bad because my cousin and I, we used to make fun of him all the time.
Yeah, Barney's a brother, just like Elmo. Well, they got Elmo being the color flower.
No, he's just corny, extra corny. Even for corny people, he's corny.
Crazy.
What's the actor name we was just talking about?
James Earl Jones?
No. And that comedy strip. The one we said he ain't really been, and he dressed up as a Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, Dave Chappelle?
Yeah.
Take your mask off.
That's it. Hey, he's black.
Clayton Bixby. Clayton.
I remember that. I remember that.
He was blind.
That's some pretty good writing there. So the link with verse 18, Daniel 12, verse 1 to 3, and be quiet. If you could read that, Baba Prashad.
Yeah. Daniel 12.
1 to 3. To tie into what we're reading here. Because he's going to talk about the same thing. I like to read certain of these verses just to show that when we read Revelation, people have this idea like, hey, Revelation's only place it talks about the end time. Not the scriptures. It's like puzzle pieces. You gotta know where to look. And the Most High will give pieces of that puzzle, not in sequential order, to different prophets and prophetesses over the years, right? Through signs, visions. Even for certain privileged ones, he'll speak to them face to face, like he did Moses, and tell them certain things. That's what I'm going to do.
Daniel 12 in verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time shall Michael stand up in great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people.
Right. So just going into one of the archangels, right, showing you that one of his tasks is to look after the children of Israel. That's what we always say. What? Michael the archangel, right? That he carried forth that work. That he do the service that was set out for him through Christ. Mm-hmm.
But is that actually written in one of the Psalms when we pray, we just pray?
But the brothers who wrote it based it on what we read here.
Okay.
Mhm.
And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book.
Great. So he's talking about thy people, referring to this time they shall be delivered, everyone that's found written in the book, or that book of life, right? So remember, it's going to be that book of life, right? You're going to have the books as far as everybody's catalog, all your lifetimes, and how much you did or didn't do according to that book of life. Read on in verse 2.
And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt.
Great. So many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall wake, some to everlasting life and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Right? Like we were saying, we were reading earlier in Thessalonians, right? The 1/3 is going to be raised up, right? Then the 2/3, they got to be judged too, whoever they may be. Read verse 3. We want to be a part of this group here in verse 3.
And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever.
Great. So it says, they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. Right? You look up in the heavens, you see the sun, the moon, the stars. It's those that be wise will shine like that, but talking about a spiritual light. And they that turn many to righteousness, right? Every man going to his neighbor, every man's brother saying, know the Lord. That's the time we're in now. It says, as the stars forever and ever. So this is the kind of star you want to be, right? Not the stars of this world, stars of this life, Rodeo Drive stars. That's just permanent. That's just temporary, right? That's here for now, but then gone. Now you want to be this kind of celebrity as far as the Most High Christ and the angels are concerned. And they told you how to do it. They told you how to become a true star.
Oh yeah, I'll be honest. Oh, I forgot. Don't feel bad about that because he didn't do the voice. He just did the movement. And the guy who hosts that show is Anthony Anderson.
Oh wow. Okay, I know who he is. Interesting.
Yeah, he didn't do the voice. The brother, he did the costume. He did the movement, but he said it wasn't the voice.
Okay. That's like what's his name was a tall brother too. You guys remember the Predator from the 80s?
Yeah, he was married to that woman on 227.
Yeah, Kevin Peter Hall. Yeah, he was a taller brother. He said he played Harry from Harry and the Hendersons too. Remember that TV show about Bigfoot?
Yep.
Anyway.
He died.
Yeah, kind of. I heard some years back. But let's
died too.
Let's finish up in verse 19. It says, "And the temple of power was open in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail." Right? So things we see that the Most High gave us down here to build the ark of the testimony, right? That's based on what they have in the heavenly temple, right? So it's a privilege to be given that same design, those same things, and to make like a replica on this physical level, which is supposed to be a reflection of how it's set up on the Most High's level. So John is being privy to some of these things. He's able to glimpse into the heavenly realm and see certain things. Yeah, not everything, obviously, because any of us would just kill over, but things he's being shown are pretty heavy. Right, to be revealed, for this to be revealed unto him, and then now for us to read and to consider. So we have come to the end today. We finished our Sabbath lesson. Just as a reminder, make sure you know that for next week, make sure you write it down and then you go over it over the week. We're going to be in the Apocrypha again. We read first Maccabees 1, so now we're going to go through Maccabees 2 and 3. So First Maccabees 2 and 3 in the Apocrypha is going to be our reading for next week. Remember, First Maccabees 1 was pretty long. So First Maccabees 2 and 3 are reading for next week. And definitely, keep an eye out for text messages from me concerning the next new moon that will come up, along with this upcoming week, just to confirm, just to make sure there's no shifting, a day of Pentecost. Because what we see now, it should be July 15th. We'll just confirm. We'll just confirm and make sure. 15th is going to be the day of Pentecost.
Oh, no, the day of Pentecost is 15th of July. You can say anything about the new moon. But you know it's close by.
Yeah, no.
Right, because we're in the 17th day. Horizon.
Yeah, I was looking at that moon last night. Seeing that moon. It has been another week before the new moon.
I seen a half.
It looked pretty full.
I seen a half.
If you want to put down the date, you can just put down the 23rd, June 23rd.
The new moon?
Mm-hmm. It's not exactly right around the corner, but
June 23rd for what?
moon, since we're in the third month now.
Okay.
No problem. All right, so with that, we'll say a Shar Shabbat. Definitely stay in the spirit. Watch and pray. Keep an eye on the prophecies as they come to pass. Make sure that you're saying and doing the things that will have you be a part of that number. Salvation we read about today in today's service. Right? Because the alternative is definitely not something that's desirable. Not in the slightest. Come. So Shar Shabbat, once again, definitely do the rest of your Sabbath. Keep it as holy as possible. And with that, we'll do the closing prayer.
Shalom.
Shalom. Can someone get the blinds, Boba Prashan?
Okay.